The next portion of the brain, moving down from the cerebrum, is the diencephalon. Some people call it the sort of middle of the brain, even though there's actually another region of the brain called the midbrain. So in primitive animals, this would have been what we call the midbrain or the middle brain. So it's mainly made of gray matter. It has a lot of different regions that are highly important for how our body functions on a daily basis that we don't have conscious control over. Some parts of our subconscious or automatic systems, like the thalamus. Thalamus surrounds your third ventricle, sits right on top of it. Its job is to control the body through glandular secretions like the pineal gland. The pineal gland is attached to the top portion with a little sort of P shape sitting right on it. It serves as a relay station, so it's going to relay information as it comes down from the cerebrum to the rest of the body, but it's also going to control things it sees as a problem by sending out signals to the pineal gland. The pineal gland is going to then produce hormones which control certain functions. So everything except for smell is going to come through here as a sensory impulse. It's going to go up to the brain. This is where I basically determine what I call sensations. It makes the decision of where information goes and what's going to happen, and kind of starts to put the information together. Pain also helps to run through this area as well. It helps to kick off other things. So it's going to send signals to the pineal gland, causing responses and reactions through different parts of the brain. So touch, temperature, pain, all those go through here. Right next to it is the optic tracts, or the optic chiasma. The optic tracts are basically the nerve tracts that go to the eyeballs and allow you to send signals from the eyeballs to the brain. As they come across, they're going to come to a point and they're going to crisscross, form an X. That's the chiasma, for like the Greek letter chi, which kind of looks like an X. So it's going to form a little X-like pattern on the bottom. It's going to switch signals from this side to this side of the brain, and this side to this side of the brain. Pituitary gland is located in this region. People may know because it's called the master control gland, because it's basically running the hormone systems of our body. The majority of hormonal secretions in our body that do most of our basic tests are run through the pituitary gland. So there's a lot of things happening to this one. So it's attached by a very short stalk called the infundibulum to the hypothalamus. So we're talking about a little small thin piece of tissue, maybe not much bigger than a pencil lead, maybe just a little bit slightly larger, holding a pea-sized gland that basically runs your entire life. And if that gets destroyed or damaged, that's it. You can't run those functions, you can't survive. So it's kind of important. Remember, back to the skeletal system, it had bone around it protecting it. The cella turcica was surrounding it and keeping it in place, keeping it from being damaged. So this is looking from the bottom of the brain up. You can see, here's where my pituitary gland is. The optic chiasma will go up here, here. The optic tracts coming along this way, sitting on this way. This is basically the brainstem down here, but up here would be where my diencephalon is. This shows you a little bit better with the thalamus, the third ventricle between it here, hypothalamus below it, coming off this way with the pineal gland, and the pituitary coming off of that as well. So the hypothalamus is one that you've heard before because a lot of organs talk about them being controlled by the hypothalamus, because that's one of its main jobs. It does a lot of functions, but it helps control a lot of our basic deals with our organs, making them function on a daily basis. So heart rate, arterial blood pressure, that's being regulated by hypothalamus. It's sending signals back and forth between the heart and the arteries, telling our body when there's problems, and sending different hormones out through the pituitary gland to regulate how this is working. Body temperature, our ability to control it. So if you have problems with your pituitary gland and some other glands as well, like the thyroid, you can affect the way this works because it's working with the hypothalamus to basically set your internal temperature. So your body should be at a certain thing. Typically say it's like a 98.6, but not everybody's that way. Some people are lower, some people are higher on average because this is set by this particular part of the brain. Your water electrolyte balance makes you thirsty, makes you know when you need more salts, makes you want to crave certain foods. So those are affected by this. Control of hunger and body weight. So a lot of our dieting issues and things like that are really problems with our hypothalamus because they're getting the wrong signals. They get used to certain signals. They want to crave certain foods and do certain things. Hypothalamus also gets a big role in pregnancy. We hear about women craving weird things because a lot of times their body knows they need certain nutrients. The hypothalamus knows this. So it basically overrides senses of taste and things like that and forces you to want certain foods because it has certain nutrients that your body needs for the baby. Same thing happens when you become starving. People are starving and they may eat weird foods and not think twice about it, and they normally would be reviled by it because their hypothalamus overrules their conscious brain and says, you need to eat that because it's good for you, because our brain knows it needs those nutrients. So it controls of our movements and glandular secretions for the stomach and intestines, so it runs our digestion. So our stomach being able to secrete all the enzymes it needs, or secrete all the gastric juices it needs, or the pancreas secrete all the enzymes we need for bile, is being done by our hypothalamus. So the pituitary gland is going to be the one that does all this. It's going to secrete all those hormones that runs all this entire system, making us work this way. So when I have problems with the pituitary gland, it can lead to a whole range of issues with the way our body functions and works correctly. Sleep and wakefulness cycle is also controlled by here. Obviously, we've heard of different types of people having types of insomnia and issues with that, or even all kinds of other sleep disorders that can happen. A lot of that's controlled by this, and so a lot of the treatments and medications are really targeted towards the pituitary gland and the hypothalamus. The limbic system is not technically an organ system by itself. It's part of the brain. It's connected to a lot of things. It has a big responsiveness to the way our body works. Because what it is, it plays a role in our emotions. It also plays a role in our stress. It plays a role in our fear. It plays a role in all of those things. They're all interconnected. Our fight or flight responses are all controlled by this system. So rage, aggression, sex drive, stress, all that's controlled by the limbic system, which is parts of the brain that are all connected together in different sections to work to create this general thing we think of as like stress or rage. One of the key features is what's called the amygdala. The amygdala are two almond-shaped little clusters of tissue that are in the temporal lobes. They play a huge role in your fear response. They're the ones that can be triggered to cause high levels of anxiety and stress in people, and some people not as much because it just depends on how our body is regulating those things. Some people like that and get the general other things like our other neurotransmitters being generated because of our fear response to give us a thrill. So people get like thrill seeking. A lot of times it's being over and from this. Some people have very low ability to it, so it takes a lot for them to generate those responses. So the fear response, control emotional memory. So sometimes really strong memories because of strong emotional things like trauma in our lives are easy to remember because of the fact that this part of the brain basically pushes it in there as a warning to let us know something bad happened. So a lot of this is being controlled. Psychology does a lot of work on dealing with what happens in this system. We think that this plays a huge role in panic disorders, which makes sense because if you have emotional memories of strong things, it can make you get very scared, very easy of phobias and things like that, where people get scared of simple objects maybe that other people aren't scared of because of this region. So the amygdala is right here, along with all the rest of the brain. It's sort of the lower portion of the brain is kind of off the side of this area.